Hi everyone, I'm Jason Barrows with jerryjamesstone.com, and it's time for Thanksgiving, and I have a great Thanksgiving appetizer. It's a butternut squash tart with fried sage and a spicy honey sauce. So let's get baking. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take our square of puff pastry. It's best if you pull that the day before from the freezer and just thaw it in the fridge. If not, you can just leave it out on your counter. Just make sure that it doesn't get too warm because you want it to be cold and be able to roll it, but not room temperature. So we want to make the tart shell a little bit bigger. We want to be 10 by 10 inches. So we're going to use our rolling pin here, and we're just going to make it slightly bigger than it already is. All right. Then we're going to take egg wash, which is just 1 whole egg and a teaspoon of water mixed together, and we're going to egg wash the tart in its entirety. So the egg wash is going to make the puff pastry nice and golden. It will also act as a glue for the squash to stick to. So all great things here. All right, so now it's time to put on the slices of butternut squash. Now, butternut squash can vary in size, so it'll kind of depend on how thick your squash is, but generally you want about 12 rounds at about 1/8 of an inch thick, and we're just going to tile those on. You want it to overlap them slightly, so we're going to put those on here, and we want to make sure that there's a 1/2 inch border around all sides, so we want to make sure that there's going to be a nice crust on the edge there. All right, so we want to parbake the squash. It's a hard vegetable, so we want to soften that up a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take an additional piece of parchment paper. We're going to put that on top of the tart there, and we're going to take another pan and we're going to put that on top of the parchment paper. What this is going to do is it's going to push the squash down. It's also going to have two metal surfaces. It's going to be between two metal surfaces, so it'll actually help sweat out that squash a little bit and also give the puff pastry a chance to rise. So we're going to put this in a preheated 375-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. You basically want to see the sides of the puff pastry start to rise, and you want to see steam come off that squash when you take it out of the oven. So let's go put this in the oven for about 10 or 15 minutes. All right, so we've pulled our par-baked dough out. We're going to take the top pan off. We're going to take the parchment paper off also. So now we're going to brush our olive oil on top of the squash, just enough to cover each one. This will also help brown the edges of the squash. Next, we're going to put our kosher salt and sprinkle that just enough, a little bit on each one. So we're going to put this back into our oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until the puff pastry is nice and golden and we have a little bit of color on the squash. So while our tart is baking, we're going to go ahead and make the honey sauce. So we're going to take our honey, some water, and some jalapenos. We're going to bring them to a boil. Once those start boiling, about 6 minutes, just till that gets nice and syrupy and a little bit thick. All right, so our honey sauce is complete. Now we're going to fry our sage. So we want 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We want that to come to pretty much just about to when it's gonna smoke. So we want to fry our sage for about 30 seconds. No more than that, you don't want it crunchy. So we're just going to put our sage in there now. And then you're going to take your sage leaves and you're going to line a plate with a paper towel and just put those on the plate to wick away the excess oil. And then now we're ready to dress our tart. So we're going to cut it. I'm going to cut mine into 9 pieces. And then we're going to add our cheese, our sauce, and our fried sage. Okay, so we're ready to cut our tart. All right, so now we're gonna put all our toppings on. And now for our sauce. So now our sauce is on. We're just going to take some freshly ground pepper, just do a couple of rounds to finish that off. So there you have it, a nice, delicious Thanksgiving appetizer. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye. Today we're going to make a delicious Thanksgiving appetizer. It's a, I don't know, because I forgot. It's